I'm never satisfied with where I'm at, which doesn't mean I don't feel accomplished. Like I always feel accomplished, but I know that like I'm always putting 100% in to what I'm doing. But there's always that drive to just do it better next time. There's always that drive to just learn something new, grow in what I'm doing, and do it better next time. It's always there. Like as soon as I'm done doing something, I'm like, all right, how can I do it better next time? It's always that thing.
Do you feel like that's like really important? Like if you don't have that drive, probably shouldn't do it, huh?
There are enough challenges that if you don't have that drive, it can be really hard to want to continue doing it. But I think if you get into this field, you're going to have that drive. It's you'll know if you have it. You'll know if you have that drive or not.
I mean, so like the drive, how would you define the drive? Like just getting better, just practice, or studying film?
It's one of those things like you get inspired by other people's art. You get inspired by seeing other people do something that you resonate with, that resonates with you so deeply, like movies can do that, something can really move you. And so you realize like, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm in this field as well. And so you take from what people are doing, and you learn about what they're doing. You learn how they're doing it, and you try to apply that to your work. And so that drive, like, just, like I was saying, I create something, I'm doing something. And in the moment I have everything I've been putting in, to pull from in that moment. You're doing a lot of stuff. You're having to creatively figure things out in the moment, on the spot, even with all the pre-planning you do before the shoot. Like there are still things that come up that either catch you by surprise or just there's always going to be something, especially when you're working with a larger crew. Like there's just always going to be something that comes up that forces you to get creative. And so you're pulling on that stuff that you've been putting in your brain. And, so yeah, in the moment, that drive is that in the moment you are giving everything you have to give. You're pulling on everything you have within you, and you're making it happen. And then by the end of that shoot, you're relieved, you feel accomplished, you are happy with what you've been able to produce, because it's everything you've been able to give. You're happy with that. But at the exact same time, you start to think like, there's things I could have done better. And you know what I mean? Like you start to look back. It's like that hindsight is 2020. You start to look back and you realize like, oh, I could have done this better. And each time you do that, it gives you oh man, I can't wait for the next project. Like, oh, I want to do this again because now I see what we did. I see where we felt might have fallen short a little bit. And so now I recognize it, and I just can't wait to do it again.
Honestly, I think you're onto something, because you're making me think about my friend Sam, who's a producer, and my friend Neto. Like they're so hard on themselves and also the craft. Like they just, where for me sometimes I'm like, this sounds great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think you're onto something. And I think honestly, the people who are the greatest, some people say Michael Jordan was really hard to work with. Like he was horrible to practice with. They talk about Kobe Bryant, where he used to just give people such a hard time even in practice. And so I look at them, even like they say that one of the biggest things that Shaq and Kobe had a big argument about all the time was Shaq was always goofing around.
Yeah.
So when I hear you talk about this drive, like, I feel like you're just like, Like when the greats talk about the drive, that they have, and I don't know. I guess it's like cool to just see that you're doing what you're passionate about. And I'm not lying. I think it's very rare to find people these days who are actually like in the field where they have the drive in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, a lot of people get burnt out doing what they're doing. But yeah, man, I just think it comes back down to, and that's why, like I said, I've known from the time I was, from my earliest memories, where I knew I was a creative person and that I wanted to do something with art, but I didn't know where that would take me. I had no idea when I was a kid drawing that I would be doing. I never in a million years would think that I would be a DP. I
Right.
loved movies. I had such a love for film, and I always felt like that was just completely unattainable.
Wow.
That could
That's so
never.
crazy.
It never even entered into my brain that I could do that. Because that was all happening in LA. That was Hollywood.
Right.
But so that's the thing. Is like you never. You've got to find, like, if you're a creative person, if you're an artist, you have to. There's so many avenues to go to express yourself creatively. And so I think sometimes it takes trying those different things out, finding out, just finding that thing that really connects with you. And that's what I had to do. It was illustration, and then it was painting. And then, like I said, I went to college for fine arts, didn't know where it was going to lead. But then it led to graphic design. So I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. Let's go down this avenue. And then it was photography. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I started, realizing like, oh, there's people I know that need films, that need video. And I have friends that are in the field doing it. So let's try that out. And, you keep exploring until something clicks. It's like, okay, this is where my creativity is leading me, and this is what I feel really drawn to. I think sometimes it's a journey to get to that point. So as a creative, you've got to find what that outlet is.
Bro, like, this is like honestly gold. Like, as you're talking, this is probably better than anything we've talked about. I mean, the thing is, bro, I'm literally reevaluating my life. I'm asking myself, because like I do some film stuff. I do even these podcasts. I do so many other things, but the one thing like I am always like, I feel like I have the drive in is like some of our community events. It's something I give people pain about. I'm always like, we can do better, because like we have like some Zoom events, we have some like live events, and like when it comes to like events and hosting people and hospitality, I'm always like, we can do better. We can make people feel more at home better,
Yeah.
And like I don't have like, even after these podcasts, I mean, I'm doing it, and I'm I'm good at talking to people, but I don't have that drive to even like, man, I missed that there, or like I should have asked better questions, and like I don't have the drive there, but I have the drive in making like communities, especially in like corporate events. I mean, you've come to stuff that I've hosted, and like I'm still doing the same thing that I've, and I think at a larger scale, and digitally as well. But when you're talking about the drive, bro, like this is gold. Like I feel like we've hit the money, because a lot of people, even for me, like sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Like, and I feel like talking to you has given me a lot of clarity. I know it's like a clarity on a podcast, but
no, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, like I feel like I need to even encourage people like, hey, what do you have a drive for? And almost release people to go find that drive, or to even like evaluate what am I like a perfectionist in? Like, I will not settle for anything less than the best.
Right.
Because that's what I hear from you right now is like, find what you'll not settle for the work. You know what I mean? Like, find something you'll not settle for, and then that's like your drive. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely, man. Yeah. I completely agree. I think analyzing those things is really important, especially as a creative. And because a lot of times I think you feel like, well, a lot of times I feel like you just, as a creative, rely on your giftings, like
Yeah.
your natural giftings.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of times, like, okay, if like for me, I naturally had a talent for drawing, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm naturally good at this.
Right.
I better continue to pursue that.
Right.
But it came to a point where it just always felt like work. It always
Right.
felt like I was never I was never locking in with it. I was naturally good at it, but I was never locking in with it. And
Right.
it wasn't until I stepped out of what I was comfortable in, which is drawing. I stepped out of that comfort zone that
Right.
I found what I clicked with. Um, and so I feel like so many times as creatives, we fall back on what we're naturally good at, and,
Yeah.
uh, and sometimes that might not be something that you're clicking with, and you've got to be able to step out and explore a little bit more.
Oh man, dude, I'm like literally right now evaluating my life because I can become great in whatever I have that drive in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I can become
Oh
great
yeah.
without even trying because I'm giving people headaches around me and they can see my drive. They can see my perfectionist.
Hmm.
Because I don't settle for that. And that's so true. That is one thing I'm like so hard on people around me. Like, hey, we have to make sure that this is done a certain way that allows, for people to feel accepted or like the event does well. Even like every day I'm like, man, like I need to do better. But it's always events. Like it's always like these like gatherings, right? I'm always thinking about when can I gather people? Like how should I gather better? How can I mobilize people? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, bro.
Yeah, man. No, I love that. I
Bro,
love
you
that.
just like blew my mind.
That's awesome. And we're discovering it
Bro,
together.
look what you did.
But I think, like, as you're saying that, as you're starting to analyze where your drive is, I think it's also important to analyze why you're so driven in that aspect. Like, what about it is driving you? And you have to get to a point, I think, where you can communicate um, why it is so important to you.
Right,
What
right,
is the value? What is the value in those things? Like, why is it something that drives you so hard? Because ultimately, what
right,
drives us is because there's a value to you, like you're getting something out of it, of course. There's something in there that you're connecting with, but also because you really do believe that it's bringing value to somebody else. Like for
right,
me, I really do believe that, like, whenever I can perfect what I'm doing, it's going to move somebody um, in an emotional way with film. And with
right,
you, with hospitality, like when you can do it excellently to the best of your ability, like that's going to serve a purpose. That's going to do something within somebody else. Like there is a value there, and you have to be able to communicate to people what that value is, especially if like you and me, like with me, directing other people and delegating things, I have to be able to communicate what that value is. And you do the same thing with the people that you're working with. You have to be able to
right,
communicate why there is this value.
right. Shoot. And I even, man, this is it, bro. This is the podcast. um, this is like gold, bro. Like this is like A plus conversation. Man, so good. When you
I'm
even
glad,
talked
man.
about, yeah, when you're looking at what's it called, like you said, what's the motivation behind that, drive, like that's key.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think,
Yeah.
and that's, sometimes when you're doing it day in, day out, I think it's helpful to have these conversations like you and I are having, because when you're just doing it all the time, it's not something you might be subconsciously doing these things. And I think
Right.
I do that subconsciously, but to actually analyze it and put it into words is not
Right.
something necessarily that you do all the time. So it's good to have these moments where you can express it and get it out,
Right.
analyze it.
Yeah. No, thanks, dude.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, bro, that was good.
Ugh.
It was a good day.
Yeah,
It's a good session.
it was good. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to do this, man. I love talking about this stuff, and I love anytime we can get down to the heart of the matter, like we are doing now, and like really figure it out. Like I love that.
And even like, yeah, just learn and grow together.
Yes.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, and I guess, if I wasn't doing, and like you said, try different things, I mean, if I wasn't doing this podcast, maybe I wouldn't find my drive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of part of
Yeah.
the journey, right? It's part of the
Right.
journey.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing too, as creatives, like you're always going to be learning, man. There's never going to there's never a time. And that's what I think, like what I was talking about. Like you do the thing, you just do it. You have to
Right.
start, and then you learn and you do it again and you keep getting better. There's never an end point. There's never a time where that journey ends. It is always about the journey. Like
Right.
you're going to continue to learn about
Right.
what drives you and how you're creative. You're going to continue to learn about that stuff, man.
Man, come on, man. Dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, buddy.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
man.
this is good. I'm glad. I'm really, really glad you're doing this, and I hope people can relate to it and learn from it, and I hope it's inspiring to other people. I'm glad you're creating a place for that to happen.